Esbit, it's German made, and for German engineering I don't like it. I thought it would be a lot better. Aren't as good. Okay, let's get straight into it. So this is the consumer version. For civilians, a little cook set of a pan, fry pan, grippers, windshield cum pot stand, and original Trangia or Trangia stove. It needs a new gasket. I'm going to make one, not going to buy one, they're too dear. The windshield, and if we have a look in the windshield here, these cutouts allow this to be supported without touching this base plate here. So it's suspended in midair, which means I can light this quickly using a little technique. And it'll bring this into a bloom mat technique from frozen in less than 20 seconds. Not just a bloom, but a roaring burn. Let's start off first with the Swedish mess tin set. It's one of my favourites. So this is the complete Swedish mess tin. The actual mess tin itself, it's had a few burns. As you can tell, it is a functional item, although I just collect this stuff just because I like them. And the burner, which is a little basket, I just put tin foil in one side to block the wind, because the air vent holes do come all the way around. It's a bit too much, so I just blocked off the back ones. It has these fold out legs which allow the pot to sit on, and they're folded flat. There you have it, and it brings the pot up to about here. A hole very big there for the actual army Trangia. Now this is ample enough to do your coffee in, just this lid section here. The lid section has these little D loops, which we're going to come to a little later, which can be raised. So we can put a stick through these loops, extend the handle and put that in a fire. Why is this the most complete set? Because it features the cups that are always missing in these, and they are designed to fit in not just one but two. This is a 1964, a lot bigger than the consumer one, a lot wider, a lot taller than the consumer. I have the original 3 Crown fuel bottle, and I'll show you that in a second, because I've married it up with the camper version. I'm just going to wet up a coil of stove rope, and I actually light this stove rope here, put that over, pan of water on. A complete set like this wasn't cheap. Even on a Carboot you wanted 40 quid, but it did include the very rare cups, not just one but 2. And put the lid on. You don't need to light it like that, of course. On a nice warm day you can just light the actual fuel well. This would be great for doing dehydrated meals, bring a bit of rice, things like that to a boil. Works great if you use the quick fire method. It comes together into a bloom very quickly. Obviously you can just light the well. Now the fuel bottle came with the Swedish mess tin set also. It's all original, by the way. There's no need to make reproductions of any of this. Now if I wanted a quicker boil, I'd use my homemade penny stove. Again, I'm going to show you how to fire these up really quickly. I'm going to use my little mocha pot on one of these cups. Now, they made all these systems in the tens of thousands, so there's no need to make reproduction stuff like this. It's all vintage as well. Vintage being 25 years or more, and then you've got veteran, refers to 50 years old or more, and then you've got antique, which refers to 100 years or more, and of course retro, which is 20 years. And there's a bit of confusion online that vintage actually means post-war or pre-war. It doesn't. It refers to a period of time. Put a couple of spoonfuls of coffee in there. Tamp it down just a little. I just light the rope and introduce the pot. This is great for how I do my coffees. I might even start bringing this to camp. This is more for your bushcrafter. Good buddy system as well. Now, when I bought these, they did not come in this condition at all. They were filthy. You can see I haven't actually cleaned the very top. See how tarnished that is. It was all like that, every single bit. But I haven't done this top ring, so you can see the condition it was in before I had it. And as you can tell, I've spent a lot of time cleaning these. I'll show you a technique how to clean brass on a quick tip if you're interested. The lid has all the safety instructions on, and the simmer ring as well, and a little pot, windshield, stove rope in. That's how I light it. This comes to a bloom very, very quickly using that technique. Take this off, put the lid back on, because I want to save that water. All this gets extremely hot. Doesn't come with a snuffer, and if you put this ring on to snuff the Trangia out, it's going to melt that rubber. But if you're quick with it and just dip it on and pull it off, it'll be fine. Pop that on, pull it off straight away. That is out. And I'll leave this off because that rubber will perish. So the complete set he wanted 35 quid for. Like I said, it came with the oval cups. He wanted 8 quid for original Trangia cook set. I got both in the end for 40 quid. £40, UK sterling. I have seen the Swedish mess tin set for about 50 UK pounds on eBay. This I got for 8 quid, included the Trangia. I've seen them for around 25 quid. The bail arm has this letter C on it, and 2 points it can be switched to. The centre for hanging over an open fire. This attachment point here, which clips into this hook, and it allows it that the handle is more stable like this, so I can grab the handle and move it in any direction to pour from. Like that. Now I have a little polythene bag, I put that in, and also the little cup that I have, I'll show you now, is designed for the same shape as this and fits flush. These are the bits I always see missing. With this setup here, I can actually make an oven by burying it in the soil, covering it in embers, and that will become a ground oven if you want to do your rabbit that way without the water. I can hear a mocha pot there, bubbling away. Thank you very much. You know, it drips quite a lot, and I just found opening the lid to pour prevents it dripping. Oh, you've no idea. I'm going to pull my little piece of fibre rope out. It's fiberglass rope, stove rope. Dip it in here, put the rope back in here when it's wet. Light the rope, don't light the tin. This is the bottle I'm going to use to transport the fuel for the camper version or the mini Trangia set. These are thirsty little buggers. I don't hear lovers of these little stoves tell you that. They go through fuel at a phenomenal rate, as where my little cat stove I've just bought my coffee on. You saw how little that took. And my penny stove, which I'm going to come to at the end, I can do with 3 caps from the bottle of meths. Now, where's my coffee? When it refers to what fuels to use, I've heard commenters say, why don't I use heat? Not available in the UK. Why don't I use rubbing alcohol? Why don't I use other kinds of ethanol? Here's the thing, it's all the same stuff. In America it'll be called things like ethanol and things like that. In Canada it'll be called methanol. Here it's called meths or methylated spirit. It is all isopropyl. Methylated spirits is isopropyl. Ethanol, isopropyl. When you're lighting with stove rope to get it to bloom quicker, it needs to be contained. Now the Swedish Army mess tin has that windshield, it's contained, so I can build up pressure and heat, because the liquid has to vaporise into a gas, and that only happens at 55 degrees. If I can make that small contained area heat to 55 degrees quicker, it'll bloom quicker. Not only will it come to a bloom quicker, it'll also fire out the jets a lot stronger. Section of stove rope, quickly wet it, put it in the primer pan here. You can see I've done it in the past here just with tissue paper. Now I'm going to light the rope, put that in. You notice I'm not lighting the actual well itself, and I can make a better draft here by putting the water on next. This won't take too long to come into a bloom. I think we're already there. That's how quick. That was just a few seconds, but then again, we haven't got frozen conditions. Top up some coffee. I'm going to fire up the penny stove, which has always been tricky to fire up because it is pressurised or semi-pressurised, because like I said before, you need to transpose the liquid fuel into a vaporous gas. This is my famous penny stove. Like I said, can be tricky to light. I put stove rope underneath it and it goes like a basket. It really does. Just going to pour straight into it. Round 30 ml. So this is incredibly fuel efficient. I need to wet this with fuel and put it underneath. Dig a penny out. Now we can light the whole thing from underneath. Let's go in. See what I mean? That's a gold nugget right there. I don't mess about. That is just going to take a couple of seconds. That'll be into a bloom in a second. A bit of wind. I can hear the liquid inside actually coming to its 55 degrees. There, bloomed. That is how to light spirit burners. My little mocker pot there is best used with the cat stove. I don't actually use the Trangia for the Swedish stove, I use this. As you can tell, it's a lot fiercer, bring water together a lot quicker. Penny stoves on their own can be troublesome. Now they're not. Look at that. This is just starting to come to a boil. The Trangia stoves, all spirit burners, are a bit slow. That is adequate enough for my mocker pot. The one on the left here with the Swedish set is more beneficial to me than the actual Trangia. I actually only got the Trangia stoves or Trangia stoves to finish off a collection. I like collecting them. And I just couldn't find the army version anywhere. 6 years I've waited to find one, found one on the Carboot, along with these very rare cups, not just one but two, that fit into the Swedish mess tin. Although it's called a Swedish mess tin set, I believe the actual canteen part is Hungarian. Surveyor make the stove called the Trangia, and they've married the Surveyor Trangia with the Hungarian canteen set, as far as my research shows. If that is incorrect, apologies, but I have researched it a little, including the pronunciation, and there was a guy from Sweden who insists it is called Trangia, but other Norse people will pronounce it Trangia, and I think both are correct depending on the dialect of where you come from. I've actually cleaned my mocker pot. As you can tell, it is absolutely pristine when it's all polished, but it does ruin the taste of the actual coffee. So all I'm going to do is wipe out my mocker pot with a rag, just so it doesn't hold moisture, but this isn't ever going to see soap. It can ruin the taste of a good coffee. Right, that's at a boil. It's taken its time. It's pretty slow to boil with Trangia. that is how I use all the systems there. The Swedish set, I'm not going to bother with the army Trangia stove. That is just more for my personal man cave collection. It's just too slow, too thirsty, far too thirsty. I usually buy 500ml of methanol, ethanol, it's all the same. And that will last a few days. Since I bought the Swedish set and the camper set, I've gone through 1,500ml, a litre and a half of fuel. So quite rare to see these cups. I've got two, yet alone one. Let's wash my pots out. I am going to put the penny stove in with the quick fire stove rope method. It brings a good quantity of water to a boil, the penny stove, in conjunction with this, in just maybe 3 minutes for about 2 cups. So when I talk about it taking too long, it's not that I'm in a hurry from a brew or anything like that. It's the fact the longer it's on the stove, the more fuel you're going through, and fuel is far too important to squander. Now I have plenty of vintage kit, if we're classing vintage as 25 years or over, of course. Gold nugget, get that back, put it in my pocket. Quick fire technique, used with all spirit burners for me. Tricky to get hold of the Swedish mess tins in America. You can, you're going to pay about $30 to $50 import, but why they should be so dear, I don't know. Don't forget to look out for the European canteen set episode. It'll feature the Yugoslavian, the German, the Swedish, all in comparison together, because I know a lot of people like the larger canteens, and I'm also going to include the BCBs from the UK and put that into a comparison. And I think that's it. I'm done, and I'll see you next time. Now you take really good care of yourself. Don't forget to enjoy yourself while you're out. Happy trails.